It's now time to introduce the subject of scales. You may think that playing jazz is all about knowing the fingering for sophisticated, exotic musical scales, but that is simply not true. Yes, altered and diminished scales do have an important role to play in advanced jazz, but there's an awful lot of jazz ground you can cover with knowledge of simple, everyday scales. In order to do so, however, there are two essential bases that you have to cover. First, you have to learn which one of the simple scales you may use on specific chord progressions. Secondly, you have to learn to use these scales without them sounding scaly. You want to make music, beautiful music, and not just play the right scale over certain chords. You will also learn and understand that in fact what we call different scales are the same notes, arranged in a different way, but that will come later. Does it all sound complicated? Believe me, it is not. Follow me, and already at the end of this lesson we will start making some music. So what are the simple scales I'm talking about? First and foremost, the minor pentatonic scale and its variation known as the blues scale. I won't even begin to describe it because I know that as a blues or rock player this is your daily bread and butter. If you only knew this scale and followed my suggestions on how to use it in a jazzy way, you could go far, very far. But I assume that you want to learn new things, expand your vocabulary, have more choices, and as I said, become a better musician overall. So your next step is to learn the major scale. As you can imagine, there are tons of possible fingerings for the major scale all over the neck. If you already know one or a few, then you can skip the next minute or so of this video. There are two fingerings or shapes that I consider essential and would like you to learn if you don't know them already. One has the root, and remember the root is the note that gives the name to the scale or to the chord. That's the first grade of the scale. That shape has the root on the bottom E string. If you're learning this for the first time, please pay attention to what I called the fretboard geometry. In the slide you're seeing now, you have the C major scale in tablature format, and for your reference you will have the same tab in the PDF file that came with this course. As you work your way up and down the scale, pay attention to the pattern of your fingers. You want to start with your second finger on the C note, 8th fret of the E string, and then follow a pattern that goes 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 2, 4, 1, 2, and that's your top octave, same note, C and C. Look at the relation between your fingers. Look at what I keep calling the fretboard geometry. As you practice and absorb these patterns, you can also keep practicing your alternate picking. Let me show you another simple exercise that can become part of your warm-up routine. Start very slow as usual. Gradually work your way up to higher speeds. As you do so, you may also want to stress the downbeat, that is the first note of every group of 4. That helps with technique and dexterity, and then you go up with your speed. You probably want, if you want to be a competent jazz player, you want to play 16th notes at 110 BPM. 110, 115 will get you very far in jazz. The second fundamental shape for the major scale has the root on the A string. Here again, as you work your way through it, pay attention to the pattern of your fingers and the movement. It goes, we're still in C, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4. Then you shift 1, 3, 4, 1, 3. And that covers an octave and a half from your bottom C, which is the root of the scale, to a high A, which is the 6th degree. Again. And now here comes one of the most important bits of this entire course. On the one hand, I would like you to know the fingerings for these two shapes of the major scale by heart. Your fingers should be moving into position automatically, without having to think. We have looked at them in the key of C, and you should be practicing them in all other keys. The shape is the same all over the neck, as you already know. But, as I said, it is essential that you avoid the beginner's mistake of playing scales instead of making music. And here's the single most useful tip I have to share with you. You have to use backing track number 1 that came with this course. This is a chord progression in the key of C major. Later I will explain to you how to figure that out. For the time being, let's just assume it's C major. Now use the first shape for the C major scale, the one starting on the bottom E, and find your middle C note. How do I find the middle C note? You know by heart that this is your C on the E string, and that's the octave, right? That's the middle C note in this particular fingering of the C major scale. Now use the backing track and start making music using only this one note. Use rhythm and try to sound jazzy. Imitate what a saxophone would do. Think what a brass section would do. Stay with that single note and explore. Then, and only then, add a second note. For instance, take the B note in your C major scale shape, the one immediately below the middle C. Once you've spent some 10-15 minutes with your two notes, obviously the next step is adding another note. Let's take for example the A, which is again a full step below your B. So you would have the middle C, B and A, and make music just using these three notes. As you can see, there's an almost infinite number of possibilities to combine these three notes, and with the right rhythm, they all sound jazzy. This is only the 5th lesson of this course. You're only using 3 notes, and you're already playing jazz. You can spend days and weeks, and I hope you will do, exploring fragments of the major scale, a few notes at a time, and enjoy the wonderful soloing possibilities that they give you.